We got a loaded Monday episode here on Verts. My name is Harrison Graham. The Bengals pay up Jamar Chase, T. Higgins under contract for the foreseeable future. Is Trey Hendrickson next? We'll dive into that. What is the latest on Aaron Rodgers? We'll dive into that as well. Some other NFL news, notes. Derek Stingley gets a contract extension. A couple other interesting nuggets I want to get into as well. But let's start with Cincinnati listen, whether you're in favor of this or not, one thing you can't claim after today, at least not entirely, is they didn't go cheap here, right? Like historically, they have been a cheap organization, not flush with cash. When you make Jamar Chase the highest paid non-quarterback in the history of the NFL and T. Higgins the highest paid wide receiver two in the history of the NFL, you can't accuse these guys of being cheap, at least not this offseason. You start with Chase, and listen, give him credit for waiting this out. And, he waits for Myles Garrett to get 40 a year. He topped it. He and his agent said they were going to be the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history, and here they are. They topped Myles Garrett at just over $40 million per year, 40 and a quarter on an annual basis. And Chase had the Bengals over a barrel. Joe Burrow was public in saying, you can't let this guy go. He's arguably the best wide receiver in the league. He's not going to play without a new deal. What are you going to do? You gotta trade him. You gotta just play this out and hope he shows up. When you have a player of this caliber, you don't really have a choice. So Jamar Chase played his cards right and won it. This is on the Bengals. They should have gotten him done last year when he was contract extension eligible, or at least one of these guys, right? Like they let Higgins play on the tag last year. They didn't extend Chase. Now you have to do it in the same offseason because T gets his new deal too. And he gets 4 years, 115, over $28 million per year, which, quite frankly, I think is actually a pretty fair and reasonable deal. Like, if he hit the open market, I think hitting 30 per year could have been on the table for T. Higgins. So to get him at that number is actually, I think if you're the Bengals, you're pretty happy about. It's just that now between Higgins and Chase, they're making $68 million per year, more than. So that's kind of a hurdle you're going to have to deal with from a roster cap standpoint moving forward. But Burrow made his priorities clear, keep these guys locked up and get them paid, and the Bengals did that. They're keeping their franchise quarterback happy, and they might pull off the trifecta, it sounds like. Trey Hendrickson, who requested a trade and was being allowed to seek a trade before the start of free agency, well, the two sides have reportedly come back together and have discussed a new contract, and apparently progress is being made. So that's trending in a positive direction. I guess my only concern with all of this is these are all guys who were on the team last year, and they're going to cost more money long term. Now, Jordan Schultz, who broke the news, and by the way, has been on an absolute heater. Just want to give Jordan Schultz his props. He did make the point that for this year, the cap hits for Chase and Higgins will actually be lower, which gives the Bengals more roster flexibility. But again, it's the cash too. Like, these owners only want to spend so much cash in an off season, and obviously they're going to get a lot of cash this year. My problem is long-term is you've had these three guys under contract and you couldn't make the playoffs. Like, giving them bigger deals doesn't make your team better. It keeps the team where it's at. Now, that doesn't mean you couldn't have more success than you had last year with these guys, but the reality is you were a 9-8 team last year and missed the playoffs, and now they're going to cost more against the cap long-term, even if not quite this year, for the foreseeable future. The reality is when you pay players like this big money, your quarterback, multiple skill guys, a pass rusher, I mean, if they get Hendrickson done, I think he's at least getting T. Higgins money of 28 per year. What that means is you have to draft and develop really well. You have to hit on draft picks while they don't cost a ton of money, and they have to contribute. Like Amarius Mims, who you drafted last year, he's got to be a good tackle moving forward. Like, he just has to be. Other players you take in the draft moving forward, they pick 17 this year, got to be a guy that can play. You just can't afford to miss on too many guys, especially with these premium picks. When you pay big money, you got to draft well. The Chiefs have done it. The Eagles have done it. Draft, develop young guys, and then you pick and choose which ones to pay long term. That's the formula for success when you have a high-paid quarterback, highest-paid receiver, highest-paid wide receiver too. Like, it's the money adds up, and it means you got to find cheaper contributors via the draft and bargain bin signings in free agency. So that's the route they've chosen to go, whether it works or not, because, again, this wasn't a playoff team last year. I can't rip them for being cheap because they've already gotten two of these guys done, and I think if you told anyone they'd keep two out of the three, they would have taken it. Now there's a chance all three could stay. That's a win, especially in the presses. But in terms of does it make your football team a sustainable contender? Well, it wasn't last year. So You know who the pressure really ramps up on is Zach Taylor. If this team's not a playoff team next year, he will get the guy. He will be the guy that gets the boot, and they'll find someone that can get the most out of these guys. Are the Bengals a Super Bowl contender with this score? Type Y for yes, type in for no. They're obviously a playoff contender, but can the defense be good enough with how much money they've spent on just a few players? That's the question that remains to be seen. Obviously, their new defensive coordinator is going to have to do a better job than Lou Anarumo did at the very end, but we'll see where it all goes. Okay, let's get to Aaron Rodgers now. What is the latest there? We are a week into free agency now. He still has not signed with the team. The Giants and the Steelers have been in pursuit. From Rodgers' camp, there seems to be a flirtation going on with the Minnesota Vikings. Well, polymarket, they got a little odds update this morning out, and it's certainly interesting. The Steelers are still the favorites, but the Giants have skyrocketed up to 36%. Him retiring is actually higher odds than him signing with the Vikings at this point in time. So it does appear to be a two-team race between the Steelers and the Giants because, at least based on this, it would appear the Vikings are not interested. And look, I think there's been a miscommunication in how the public has received the reporting from Diana Rossini, Mike Silver, and others. They have never said that the Vikings are negotiating and discussing with Aaron Rodgers' camp about signing him. What they've reported is that they're having conversations in their own building about whether or not they do want to sign him. And then they've also reported that Rodgers is interested. So to me, this is very simple. Aaron Rodgers wants to sign with the Vikings. And why wouldn't he? Kevin O'Connell, QB whisperer type. Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson, his buddy Aaron Jones. They just traded for Jordan Mason. Good skill talent. They've loaded up on the offensive line. They won 14 games to Sam Darnold last year. Of course. Oh, by the way, he knows the NFC North well. Of course Aaron Rodgers wants to go to Minnesota over Pittsburgh and New York. But that doesn't mean Minnesota wants to sign Aaron Rodgers. Now, if they're concerned about J.J. McCarthy's health or his ability to lead them to the playoffs this year, I could see them being interested. But clearly, at this exact moment, they have not, in that building, come to the conclusion that they need to sign Aaron Rodgers. Maybe they're still debating it. Rodgers is clearly on board. I think that's obvious. It's just a whether or not the Vikings are. And I think Rodgers is waiting this out until he gets a firm no from Minnesota. Then he will pivot to New York or Pittsburgh. Now, as far as the odds shifting maybe in New York's favor, just below the Steelers right now, I still, if I'm guessing where he's going to go, and if I'm putting myself in Rodgers' shoes, I would sign with the Steelers over the Giants for a couple of reasons. One, I think both divisions are pretty tough, and I get Brian Daboll's an offensive guy, but that GM and head coach, if they start out slow, it could be like last year where Saleh gets canned a month into the season. Like, if you ask me right now, if I had to guess, betting odds first coach to be fired next season, I'd probably say Brian Daboll, right? Because he almost got fired at the end of last season. And then the GM would go too. So do you want to sign up for that? Or at least with Mike Tomlin, even if his thinking is a little archaic and, defense first, all that stuff. Like, I get it's not a perfect situation, but they did just get DK Metcalf. I think George Pickens' skill set actually does fit the way Rodgers likes to play, a lot of back shoulders. I would take my chances with Mike Tomlin and the Steelers if I'm Aaron Rodgers. I can go to sleep at night if my career comes to an end after next year if it doesn't work out. Well, I tried it with one of the best coaches of his generation and not the sinking Brian Daboll, Joe Shane New York Giants. Like, I would take that swing over New York, but maybe he'll stay in New York and just switch teams. We'll have to wait and see. Okay, we got more NFL storylines to get into, but today's show is sponsored by Turtle Beach. The best gaming headsets and accessories out there can be found with Turtle Beach. I'm rocking my Turtle Beach headset today, and it picks up audio so clearly that you're basically cheating when you game. Get 10% off with code chat at turtlebeach.com/chat. I personally recommend you get the all-new Stealth 700 headset as the sound quality and comfort are incredible. The 3D spatial audio has taken my gaming to the next level, especially in fast-paced games like Call of Duty and Fortnite. The Stealth 700 headset also has the industry's first ever cross-play dual wireless transmitter system. That means you can seamlessly switch between your console and PC with just the click of a button. And it gets even better. While being connected to your console, the Stealth 700 can connect you with your phone for music, streaming, or taking calls at the same time. Listen to your favorite songs while gaming, all done with the Stealth 700 headset from Turtle Beach. Head to turtlebeach.com turtlebeach.com/chat. Use code chat for 10% off your entire order. That's 10% off your order at turtlebeach.com/chat, code chat. After your purchase, they're going to ask you where you heard about them, and tell them we sent you. Bears Now by Chat Sports, and get the ultimate immersive gaming experience with Turtle Beach today. Link is in the comments and description. 10% off with code chat at turtlebeach.com/chat. Okay, speaking of another big contract, Derek Stingley Jr. becomes the highest paid corner in NFL history in terms of average annual value, $30 million per year, 3 years, $90 million with the Houston Texans, and quite a turnaround for him, right? Early on in his career, had some injury concerns, didn't know if his career was going to get off the ground. In the last 2 years, he's probably been, if you add the 2 seasons up, the best corner in the NFL, especially this past season. I'll say this, though, man. You look at the highest paid corners, to reset the market by that much, over $5 million per year. Now, J.C. Horn reset the market initially. That's great for him. From Carolina, I'm not so sure. I guess you got to pay a premium when you've been a team that's struggled for so many years. But when you reset the market by over $5 million, it's kind of like with Jamar Chase. I mean, sure, the market kind of became the highest non-paid quarterback, but at receiver, he cleared Justin Jefferson by $5 million per year, which no one really thought that would be the case when Jetta signed last year. For Stingley to clear the highest paid corner by $5 million per year, like it, it's great for him. But if you're Houston, you're trading Laramie Tunsil to protect your quarterback, and you're making Stingley 20% paid more than the next highest paid corner. Like, I'm not saying it's bad business, and he had 2 years left on his rookie deal, so you kind of turn it into a new 5-year contract. Like, in the end, they'll be fine. But it's just like, man, like, you couldn't get him at 27. Like, you got to go up to 30. That's a little tough. But I give him credit for this. Sauce Gardner is eligible to get paid as well. You get it done before Sauce, and now it kind of forces the Jets to pay $30 million per year for Sauce, if not more. So again, you want to be early rather than late, and the advantage of paying him now too, even if it is resetting the market a little too high, is he is now on a 5-year deal, basically. So you can kind of spread out the cap hits, and it ends up being a little bit more manageable for Houston's books. Okay, subscribe to the channel. When we have breaking news in the NFL, big storylines out there, we're getting it covered here on 4 Verts. So subscribe today. Free agency, draft content, a whole lot more, trade rumors. So lock us in. Okay, some quick hitters here, then we'll get out of here. Jameis Winston is going to visit the Giants tomorrow. I'll say this. If you're the Giants and you're holding out for Aaron Rodgers, you've had Russell Wilson visit, who I don't love, but is clearly better than Jameis Winston, and you end up with like a Jameis Winston take a quarterback on day 2 scenario, if Cam Ward and Shedeur go 1 and 2, that's a tough pill to swallow if you're Giants fans. It's entertaining with Jameis, but you're not going to win. Rondale Moore visiting the Bears, interesting there with Ben Johnson there to get a speedster, ran a 4.3 at his 40s, had some injuries in college and in the NFL, but when healthy can be an explosive playmaker, so I'll be curious if they sign him. He visited Minnesota last week. And then there's a report out there that the Patriots want a 3rd-round pick for quarterback Joe Milton. I like Joe Milton. He's got intriguing tools, and as a backup, cool. 3rd-round pick? Like, to me, if you're trading a 3rd-round pick for him, like, you're giving him a chance to start. Like, you're a team giving him a chance to start. I don't think any team would do that. The most I would give up if I was a team is a 5th. He went in the 6th last year and has lost a year of his rookie contract. You're going to give him a 3rd because he played a cool game in Week 18 with nothing on the line? I just, that's, to me, is a little reckless. And quite frankly, even if the report is true, it kind of tells me the Patriots don't really expect to trade him. Like, they're kind of telling you, we want to keep him, but sure, if you give us a day 2 pick, we'll trade him, because that would be robbery by Elliott Wolf in New England. So do not think that'll happen. All right, appreciate everybody for tuning in to this episode of 4 Verts. Give us a follow on Instagram as well. We got an IG page at 4VertsIG, and we'll see you guys tomorrow with another episode.